gentlemen, welcome back to the Anatomy of a King. I got a question. How long before the bodyguard stops jumping in front of the bullets? See, that's a question nobody seems to want to ask out loud. Not in public, not in private, not even in the mirror. You cannot humiliate a man daily and then act confused when he stops performing miracles. You cannot drain a man emotionally, financially, spiritually, and then demand he still be your shield. Daily, I see women humiliating their protectors. Daily. So today, this episode is not about blame. It's about truth. Because what you don't change, you choose. And this change can't afford excuses. Let's unpack that. Black men are expected to give endlessly. We're expected to give protection, provision, presence, patience, leadership, emotional labor, and the list goes on, and we're supposed to give it just because people show up. Because a woman shows up. But what do you receive in return? I mean, besides criticism, comparison, disrespect, and super unrealistic expectations. It's an emotional economy nobody audits. A black man's value is often measured by what he can do, not who he is. When you treat a man like a utility, don't be surprised when he malfunctions. Because even the strongest structures collapse when the load is heavier than the support. See, that's when a slow slippage occurs. See, it doesn't happen overnight. Start small. He forgets to call back, look quieter than usual. He stopped volunteering to help. Yeah. Not really there, not mentally. This isn't laziness. This isn't neglect. This is erosion. A man who is constantly criticized eventually stops trying. A man who is constantly doubted eventually stops believing. A man who is constantly humiliated eventually stops caring. It's the same way with chivalry and other relationships between men and women that are not together. How much can the bodyguard take before they don't want to do their job anymore? Imagine a bodyguard who has taken bullet after bullet. Think about the injuries. You think bullet shot holes. You got to think bruised ribs, fractured wrists, sleepless nights, untreated wounds, no gratitude, no backup, no rest. And every time he steps in front of the danger, the people behind him say, "Why didn't you jump faster?" Or, "Why didn't you block it better?" You're supposed to protect us. At what point does instinct shift from protection to self-preservation? Not because we stop loving, but because we started bleeding. See, we go through this cultural double standard. Black men, be strong. Be a provider. Be a leader. Be a protector. Be a man. I want to tell y'all to rest. Heal. I appreciate you. This podcast is because I see you. I'm with you. You, me, we matter. We celebrate the results of black male strength while ignoring the cost of producing it. They want the lion, but they don't want to feed him. They want the king, but they don't want to honor him. They want the shield. But who protects the protector? See, there comes a point where everybody knows that everybody has. It's a breaking point. Because every man has a threshold. For some, it's emotional. It could be financial. It could be spiritual. But the breaking point is always arise when the humiliation outweighs the honor. When the disrespect outweighs the appreciation. When the demands outweigh the support. When the expectations outweigh the investment. A man cannot pour from a cup that everyone drinks from, but no one refills. And when he finally stops jumping in front of the bullet, that's when the criticism comes. They ignore what they did to you on the way to saying he changed. He switched up. He stopped caring. No, I stopped dying for you. I stopped. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not about blaming women. We don't bash women here. This is merely an examination. This is not about blaming society, but it is about balance. You can brag about thriving all you want, but a community cannot thrive if its men are emotionally bankrupt. See, a relationship cannot thrive if the man is spiritually exhausted. A family cannot thrive if the father is psychologically depleted. Accountability is necessary, but humiliation is destructive. Correction should build, not break. Guidance should uplift, not embarrass. Feedback should strengthen and not shame. See, we as men have to stand on business at this point, though. You got to stand on what you need to thrive. You don't waver on your respect, affirmations, and emotional safety. The show of appreciation and partnership, rest, space to be human, room to grow, room to fail, and room to heal. Space to be human. I got a secret that it doesn't feel like it's a secret. We all know who we are. We know that we feel valued. Let me rephrase this. Hold on. When we feel value, we become more protective. When we feel more respected, we become more responsible. A man who feels appreciated becomes more generous. It's not about stroking his ego. It's about showing support. Support doesn't weaken a man. Support strengthens the kingdom. So how long before the bodyguard does stop jumping in front of the bullet? The answer is simple. He stops when he realizes no one is checking if he survived the last one. We deserve more than applause when we perform. We deserve care when we collapse. We deserve honor when we stand. We deserve compassion when we fall. Fellas, remember, what you don't change, you choose. And this change can't afford excuses. This has been the Anatomy of a King. Let's build better men by building better environment for men. See you next time.
Thank you.